Hey everyone, welcome back to the Brumby build series. Back out in the shed and back to t-shirt and shorts weather, which is great. Much better than last episode when it was getting quite cool in the shed out here. But in the meantime, where are we at today? What are we doing? Well, in a similar vein to swapping out the diff, I figure I might as well keep going down the back of the car, because at some point I need to replace the rear hubs and the rear brakes, and they should be relatively straightforward. Touch wood, hopefully I'm not foreshadowing anything there, but yeah, so I think I might crack on with that. It's got to be done sooner or later, might as well do it now. So part of the challenge though is going to be making sure that I'm able to still put wheels on this thing, because I want to be able to roll this out of the shed whenever I need to get something else onto the hoist. So you've probably noticed in a lot of the shots that I've still got the axles installed on the Brumby that go from the diffs to the wheels. And the reason for that is when I took them out of the front, I realised that the front hubs are not self-supporting. If you pull the axles out from the hubs, then the wheels kind of fall off your wagon and you can't roll it anywhere. So that obviously ain't going to work. So I've put the axles back in the front. The rear ones, I don't know if they work the same or not, but I figure let's just give it a crack and see how we get on with that. So let's jump down the back of the car. I'll get it hoisted up in the air and we'll get stuck into today's work. Because the inner end of the axles has already been removed from the diff, I figure this should be a straightforward process. Remove the wheel, then the cotter pin that holds the castle nut in place, then crack off the castle nut itself. Then I can knock out the pin that secures the axle to the hub assembly, and I should just be able to knock the axle off the hub. Shouldn't I? Why does that not want to come off? Okay, so I've taken the pin out of there. Hopefully you can see what I'm pointing to. And in theory, that should allow this guy to slide off the axle in here. But I won't pull it by that because I could pull the CV apart. But he is on there solid. I'll give him a dose of COC, keep on pulling this side apart. If he still doesn't want to come off, at least I can check the other side and see if I can figure something out. But yeah, won't stop us for now. We'll just keep going. Yeah, just a couple of taps to break the shoes free from the hub. Yeah, there we go. The good thing about drums is if they don't come off, you can always back off the adjuster on them to get a bit more room, but the shoes obviously had enough clearance. We actually don't have much of a lip on there. There's not in the worst shape, I have to say. There's still a bit of meat on there. There's plenty of meat on this. But still, discs will be better. Right, so I'm going to take off the brake lines. I've already syringed all the fluid out of the master cylinder and actually removed it up the front, so shouldn't make too much of a mess, but there's bound to still be some fluid in the line, so I'm just going to catch that with this guy. Oh, that looks very rusty. Hope he's going to come off okay. Which way am I going? That way. Oh, that's tight. Ah, there we go. Oh, this is going to be a slow and painful process. Let me just reposition you, show you something on the other side there. Okay, hopefully you can see this, but there's the brake line and there's the bleed nipple. So if I try and take it off with the spanner on this side, I can only turn it very, very little. I have to basically just keep on reversing the spanner around. If I try and do it on this side, same thing, you can only turn it a very small amount. It's coming off, that's all that matters. Okay, now we've got 3 bolts holding this backing plate that holds the discs on. One of them goes all the way through, the other 2 just go into the trailing arm. Thick, that's tight. There we go. Now the 2 on this side don't have a nut on the back, so that makes them a little bit easier. And they actually undo a little bit easier as well, probably because they're not exposed on the back side. Nobody wants to be exposed on their backside. Although, actually no, I do know a couple of people that don't seem to mind it. I won't name any names. Off you come. Boom, there it is. Ooh, there it's leaking. Okay, so this is proving a little bit challenging. The axle shaft is stuck onto the hub shaft that runs through there. I've taken the pin out, but I can't seem to knock that off. It might just be seized on there, but I do have a manual, and I've had a bit of a look at this, bit of a read. So this is a Gregory's manual. It's the only one that I've got for this car, but anyway. What it's talking, so this is what we're trying to get off. That's the axle shaft, and it's held in by the two pins, these guys, which I've gotten off the car. I've taken the one off the hub end, and that still won't slide off the hub. And it does talk about here that there is a hub drive shaft, so that is the one that's in the side. Unfortunately, that's not coming out. So that bit, from what I understand, should just slide off. It does talk in the manual about there being a ring nut that retains this axle shaft. I don't actually know what a ring nut is, if I'm being honest. It's not the castle nut that I took off the end here, because that's talked about with a different terminology and as retaining the hub, the drum, rather than the shaft. So I don't think it's that. Maybe there is another nut in underneath this little cover. But I can't get to that side until I get the axle shaft off. So yeah, I'll dose that with some CRC, go get the other side to the same state, do a bit of a comparison, see if I can figure out what's going on. Yeah, so sure enough, this side's the same. I've taken the pin out of here, but again, he won't come off. And I've been beaten on this quite a bit. I have actually got some play on this side, but it looks like it's actually just driving the hub shaft out through the hub. I could potentially do that, but then I've got the hub shaft stuck in the axle shaft, and once it's out of here, the chance of me being able to separate those two is, it's going to be nigh on impossible. So it's going to be easier if it's all held in place on here. So I think I'm going to try and make an arrangement to go over this shaft and perhaps tighten up the axle nut on there and pull this back. I still don't know for sure whether, because the manual unfortunately doesn't tell you. It doesn't even offer a diagram on this particular section, but I think I will either be able to pull this out, which would be a win, or if it won't pull out, the nut will at least hold the axle in place while I drive that out. All right, so I've done a bit more thinking and planning. You see what I've done here is I've spaced this out. These are just old bearing races from dud bearings that I've replaced over the years. Sometimes it pays to be a bit of a hoarder, but yeah, I've found numerous times that these things make really good spaces because they're hardened steel and so on. But I've put the axle nut back on the end there. It's only hand tight, like it's literally, I've just snugged it up. My thought pattern is that axle probably won't come out this way without dragging the bearings with it. My plan has changed slightly. Rather than trying to force this out, I could have put the impact driver on this and try to pull it all out, but I think that's just going to pull out all the bearings. It would separate the shafts, but it would also pull out all the bearings, and I don't want to be going around replacing bearings if I don't have to. So let me just reposition the camera, and then now that the oil's had a little bit of, CRC's had a bit of chance to soak in, I'm going to just try bashing the axle off that way again, you know, the axle shaft, and this should stop the hub shaft from getting pulled through. So fingers crossed this will do the trick. All right, this is just a drift that I use. It's an old socket extension that's no longer required, so that should hopefully get me a good angle and, fingers crossed, mean that I don't smash anything else to bits with the hammer. So here goes, deep breath. What am I doing wrong? Want to guess where it landed? Somewhere down in there. There he is. Okay, I'm back for another go. I'm going to try using this as the drift instead, just to get my hands a bit clear, because it's making me very nervous. That is stubborn. The back of the axle here is taking the abuse quite well. You can't even tell I've been wailing on it. Right, and I've changed sides to see if this side is any more agreeable. Let's just get him on a bit more natural angle. Done the same trick. Use my bearing races to hold the half shaft from moving. And let's give it a go. It's moving. It's moving! Whew. Oh yeah! Okay, feeling better. Feeling better. Brute force and ignorance, eh? That's what wins on the day. All right, back to the other side, back for more bashing. It's definitely moving now. Oh. Far out. That was on there good. I'm picking that has not been off since the car was built, because that was tight. Man, that slowed progress a fair bit, didn't it? Anyway, doesn't matter. It's done. It's done. Celebration! Oh man, I would actually quite like to have a beer to celebrate, but no, it's too early for that. There's work to be done. Beer can come later. So this is the left-hand side, which was the one that the bearings had started to come loose on. So I've put the bearings back in place, just used the drum back on there and then tightened up the axle nut to compress the bearings back together. Now whether I did damage to them during the extraction or whether these are just bearings that are on a 300,000 kilometre car, I don't know, but there's actually a little bit of noise on this side. The other side's fine, but this side, let me just put the camera next, the microphone next to it. Hopefully you can hear that. But anyway, not overly happy reassembling with those bearings in there. So I think what I'm going to need to do is order a set of replacement bearings for it. Might as well do the other side while I'm at it as well. No point just doing one side, I reckon. So this is a good opportunity as any to replace the bearings. So I'll order a bearing kit for either side. In the meantime, I have given this a nice little spruce up with the wire wheel. This is going to be the mounting surface for the brakes, so I want to make sure that there's no leftover crud or material on there that could mean that the brakes are just, you know, even slightly on an angle, because there was a bit of crud in there, would be enough to impact the braking performance and potentially have a bit of a shake or anything through there. So I've cleaned that up with the wire wheel. Happy enough with all of that. I think I've found on the inside here, I reckon that guy there is what they were talking about in the manual as being the ring nut. So potentially I need to get that out to replace the wheel bearings, but I'll figure that out later on. What else have I found out? Okay, so I have these adapter rings, this little guy here, and he will fit over there. I won't push them in place because it's quite a snug fit and I'm not quite ready to have him on there. And then on the other end, he adapts onto the backing plate. So those four little things should go onto the backing plate of the rear brakes. Unfortunately, the Outback one's too big. So looks like I'm going to have to get different backing plates. I believe one's off early Impreza will fit. So yeah, might have to put a call out to a couple of wreckers and see if I can pick something up to replace those. Hopefully that won't be too expensive. I do need to get some new front shocks or strut assemblies, because the Outback ones are definitely too big to go in the Brumby, and I need those off an early Impreza as well. So yeah, might do a little bit of hunting round. That's probably my next little stop. So I'll leave the work on the Brumby here for now while I go order some bearings, try and find some struts, try and find some backing plates, because I need to get those ordered so that they can arrive and I can continue work on this end and stuff and get it all put together.
Coming up on the next episode, I move back towards the front of the car and start working on a few bits there while I wait for the parts to arrive. Make sure you keep an eye out for when the next video drops. Thank you all for watching.